The Ukraine-Russia war took an unexpected turn when 300 determined Ukrainian soldiers entered Kursk, stunning Russia and changing the situation. Not stopping there, Ukraine continued to attack Belgorod in late August, shifting from defense to initiative, surprising Russian President Vladimir Putin and challenging his authority. Is this a sign that Ukraine is gaining the upper hand, or that Putin is running out of steam? Let's explore these dramatic developments. News from media agencies. Ukraine continued its offensive strategy against Russia with the Belgorod invasion on August 27, 2024, following its success at Kursk. According to former British military intelligence officer Philip Ingram, at least 300 Ukrainian soldiers attacked one border checkpoint, while about 200 attacked another. This force, similar to the Kursk offensive, was supported by armored vehicles and tanks to destroy the border checkpoints to open the way for more troops to enter. Reports on the size and scope of the attack vary. Some pro-Kremlin telegram sources said about 60 Ukrainian soldiers and 8 armored vehicles attacked Nertivka, while other reports said 200 soldiers with mechanized combat vehicles. There were also reports of 300 soldiers fighting at Shepikino, another border checkpoint. Despite denials from some pro-Kremlin sources, Belgorod Governor Vyacheslav Gladkov confirmed that Ukraine had carried out artillery and drone attacks on 3 communities in the region, including Petrovka, 9 kilometers from Nertivka. These developments suggest that Ukraine may have breached the border defenses and seized some territory. Similar to Kursk, Russia has insisted that the situation remains under control, despite evidence to the contrary. Reuters noted that many of the reports on Telegram could not be verified, but claims from Operation Z, a popular Russian military blog, were also inconsistent, denying any large-scale Ukrainian offensive efforts while acknowledging border fighting. According to Ingram, Kursk is just the first stage of a larger operation that will see Ukraine seize an amount of Russian territory equivalent to what Russia controls in Ukraine. Belgorod could be the next step in this plan, despite the ambiguity in reports and denial efforts from Russia. Most recent invasion. Ukraine has repeatedly attacked Belgorod, making it a focal point of the war. On April 21, 2023, a Russian warplane mistakenly bombed Belgorod, creating a 19-meter crater and destroying the road, but causing no casualties. This incident became clearer after pro-Ukrainian groups such as the Russian Volunteer Corps and the Free Russian Corps launched an attack on Belgorod from Ukraine on May 22, 2023, seizing several border communities before being pushed back by Russian troops. In June 2023, the RVC continued to coordinate with the Terror Battalion from Belarus to carry out attacks, aimed at distracting Russian forces from the Ukrainian front and inciting an anti-Putin uprising. This attack was not the only time Belgorod was threatened. On May 6, 2024, Ukraine carried out an airstrike that killed 7 and injured 35, following a drone attack in December 2023 that killed 25 and injured 100. Despite having seen Belgorod attacked many times, Putin was surprised by the large-scale incursion in August 2024, when border checkpoints failed to stop hundreds of Ukrainian soldiers. This forced Russia to use artillery and drones in response, but further exposed the weakness of Russia's defenses in the area. Why is Ukraine targeting Belgorod? The region's importance to Russia may explain it. AP News states that Belgorod Oblast borders Ukraine for 539 kilometers. The 1.5 million-person region has farmlands and rolling hills over 2,765 square kilometers. Belgorod produces 40% of Russia's iron ore, which it needs to make its war machine, and is home to several large Russian industrial businesses. Ukrainian attempts to seize Belgorod may be meant to shut off Russian access to its iron and farms. Ukraine's invasion deeper into the oblast will impair logistics for transporting these items to Russia, putting Putin in a material crisis that's already seen him draw World War II-era tanks out of storage to continue his assaults on Ukraine. To cause that disruption, Ukraine would need a lot of Belgorod. More than 500 troops reported to have crossed the border could have taken it. It's more plausible that Ukraine invaded Belgorod to gain influence in Russia by stealing more territory from Putin. Ingram tells Times Radio that Ukraine is using Belgorod and Kursk to create a buffer zone on its northern frontiers to negotiate with Russia. According to Ingram, the Ukrainians may try to take over a buffer zone along Russia's northern border. That buffer zone should equal Russia's territory in Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's forces are making gains along the line. Ukraine controls 999 square kilometers of Kursk as of September 4, 2024. It's unclear how much area it's gained in Belgorod, but its raids on settlements 9 kilometers from Tivka suggest it's close to 1036 square kilometers. Compare Russia's Ukraine territorial gains. Russia's war in Ukraine has entered a phase of attrition after its strategy of rapid offensives to seize Kyiv failed. Russia has lost more than 62,000 soldiers, but still controls 18% of Ukraine's territory, or about 108,000 square kilometers, after more than 2.5 years of fighting, according to Ukraine's finance ministry. However, the pace of Russia's advance has slowed significantly, capturing just 546 square kilometers from January to May 2024, according to Reuters. By contrast, Ukraine has made greater strides, capturing more territory in a month of offensives in Russia than Russia has in Ukraine in the same period. This Ukrainian strategy aims to create a buffer zone in areas like Kursk and Belgorod, reducing Russia's ability to attack northern Ukraine and allowing Kyiv to focus on defending key areas like Donetsk, Putin's main goal in 2023 and 2024. Beyond military purposes, Zelensky could also use the captured territories as a bargaining chip, proposing an exchange. Russia gets Ukrainian territory, and Ukraine gets Russian territory. While Putin is unlikely to give up 18% of Ukraine, Zelensky could increase pressure by continuing to advance deeper into Russian territory if negotiations fail. Ukraine's move to bring the war into Russian territory through attacks on Belgorod and Kursk has increased pressure on Putin. This not only exposed the weaknesses of the Russian military, but also brought the harsh reality of the war directly to the Russian people, further destabilizing the Kremlin government. Ukrainian pressure increases. Just 13 days before Ukraine invaded Belgorod, the region declared a state of emergency on August 14th due to Ukrainian attacks, which allegedly caused civilian casualties and property damage. These claims remain unverified, but public discontent is growing. Kursk illustrates this unrest, as residents of the Sudansky district sent telegrams to Putin just 2 days after the invasion, accusing the government of lying about the situation. Local reports describe fierce clashes in the Sudansky and Koronevsky regions, contradicting official claims of control. Residents of Kursk and Belgorod express frustration with poor local governance and delayed responses to the crisis. In September 2024, Russian parliamentarian Yevgeny Fedorov criticized the Kremlin's propaganda, questioning actions like village evacuations and city closures far from the front lines, which contradict claims of control. Fedorov noted that such mismanagement and misinformation are eroding public trust in Putin's leadership. Ukraine's attacks in Belgorod and Kursk have exposed the weaknesses of Russia's military and highlighted Putin's inability to protect his citizens. Ingram, in a Times radio interview, emphasized that Russia should have been better prepared after earlier Ukrainian strikes in 2024. The incursions challenge Putin's strongman image, which has long been central to his presidency. The erosion of this image undermines the Kremlin's narrative, as Ukraine continues to receive advanced Western weapons like F-16s. The Belgorod and Kursk offensives reveal the diminishing credibility of Russia's military strength and suggest that Putin's control over the situation and his power base is faltering. Russian troops fighting inside Russia. Now it's battling Russian forces inside Russia, gaining territory, and Putin has yet to respond, much alone launch the military aggression most expect. Red lines have shifted again. Russia, and Putin by proxy, insist on being a threat. On September 4th, Russia's foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, told reporters that Zelensky has egged on the US and that they should understand they are joking about red lines. They shouldn't mock our red lines. The majority of those red lines have been violated. Putin hasn't addressed it, supporting the idea that Russia's military is poorly trained and less capable than many thought. After all, this military is losing 1,000 people each day in Donetsk to take small bits of territory while losing much more ground in Ukraine's north. Another reason Ukraine invaded Belgorod. This gives Putin pause. Indeed, that was a major cause of the Kursk invasion, to defeat the Ukrainian invaders. Putin has sent at least 30,000 troops there. The Kursk Oblast operation was meant to divert Russian troops to their region, and Zelensky informed NBC News at the start of September that the number may be 6,000. The Belgorod invasion may have had similar intentions. To relieve pressure in Donetsk, Zelensky is pushing the combat front into Russia. Putin must struggle. Ukraine's invasion of Belgorod has forced Putin into a defensive position, marking a significant shift in the conflict. Following struggles with the Kursk offensive, Putin now faces Ukrainian attacks. The assault on Belgorod highlights Ukraine's intent to seize the initiative. Zelensky effectively shifted the conflict into Russian territory, responding to missile and drone strikes on Ukraine's Independence Day, August 24th, which killed 4 people. According to Ingram, these strikes were Putin's attempt to demonstrate control despite Ukraine. For the first time in the war, Putin appears reactive, dealing with unexpected Ukrainian offensives, such as the surprise attacks on Kursk and Belgorod. Unlike the well-anticipated Ukrainian counteroffensive of 2023, while Russia advances in Donetsk, Ukraine's ability to hold captured regions like Kursk. Zelensky has stated Ukraine's intention to retain Kursk for strategic purposes rather than territorial expansion. However, maintaining control requires substantial troop commitments, especially as Russia's counterattacks and advances in Donetsk test Ukraine's resources. Ingram notes Ukraine's current army has likely reached its limits in exploiting Russian vulnerabilities, necessitating reinforcements for further gains. Despite these challenges, the Belgorod offensive has exposed weaknesses in Russia's military preparedness, dealing another blow to Putin's credibility. While Ukraine faces the dual challenge of holding its gains and countering Russian advances, the conflict underscores a pivotal moment where Ukraine exerts significant pressure on Russia's strategic posture. Should Putin change course, Russians are losing trust in him due to delayed reactions to his safety assurances. Putin may need to negotiate and organize an emergency conference to formulate a swift reaction to Ukraine's counterattacks.